Eye on Gauteng, brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Economic Development.
Welcome back. You're watching Eye on Gauteng. Still with us is the Gauteng Chief Operations Officer for the Department of Sports, Arts, Culture and Recreation, Mr. Mzwandile Masina, Artistic Director for the Black Tie Ensemble, Mr. Marcus Tesando, and Curator, Writer and Artist for Asylum Atelier, Melissa Goba. Melissa, I want to start with you in the second half. In your industry, do you find that the Gauteng province provides your industry something of a hub with regards to the, in relation to the rest of the country?
Look, I think what we also need to do is to look at, before I even answer that question, is look at the structures that are currently in place. So mine being the visual arts industry, are there spaces within which exhibitions can take place where a curator can sort of find their feet in that? There's Museum Africa, there's the Johannesburg Art Gallery in terms of government institutions. And then there are private galleries, and artists have sort of found their own way of making public interventions, site-specific public interventions, to confront or interact with whatever social issues that there might be. So that being said, there are those things in place. I think it's just a question of artists also being aware of what is possible in spite of the parameters or the challenges within which they work. And to a certain extent, I'd like to believe that visual artists have been quite innovative in how they've approached the dynamics within which they operate. But that being said, I think what's also important is that the professional artists are not really given places where they can explore their ideas in terms of the research that is necessary for that to take place. They're not necessarily given spaces or the possibility for intergenre challenges, experimentation. A project space that would have would be the intersection of a theatre production / a visual arts exhibition / poetry comedy session. I think we need to get to a point where we can see the arts as a seamless stream, if you will. And I think should we get to that point, then a lot of the things that we're seeing as obstacles now might not necessarily be there.
And the Gauteng angle?
I think the Gauteng angle, I mean, there's the golden economy that's just been spoken about, and I think I'm aware of a possibility of funds that are specifically going to be allocated to the arts that'll be coming within Gauteng. So there's a lot of prospect for growth. The funding is available. The partnerships are already in place, even with the private sector. So in other words, they are corporates that have a long-standing commitment or relationship that they have with the arts. I don't know if I should be mentioning anybody.
I want to bring Marcus in. You know, this Jimmy comes to Joburg Syndrome. Every artist, every performing artist, singer, musician, or in your case, musician, wants to make it in Joburg. They've got all this talent all over the country, but if they really want to make it, they come to Joburg. Have you seen that in your line of work, in your experience?
Well, yes, because Gauteng as a whole has always been an incubator for art in general, and not just in visual or theatre, but there's more orchestras up here than there are anywhere else in the country.
Why do you think that is so?
Because we have more people in Gauteng. We have to really face it. It is the biggest population per province in South Africa. So we do have a lot of people that migrate or live in Gauteng. We have about 3 orchestras, I think. We have about 3 opera companies. There's at least quite a number of theatre and dance companies. So it is thriving, and everybody wants to be part of it. The challenge, as Melissa has said, has always been to create the space for it to really bloom and blossom. And that is one of the biggest, besides funding from government or from private sector, has always been about most art institutions are independent. And so with independence comes, you have to find your own way, you have to find your own rehearsal space, you have to hustle. So and most of the government run theatre spaces we have to rent, and the rents are not always very kind to us, because we have to hustle for so many things. So yes, space is one of the biggest challenges, but at the same time, we have to celebrate the fact that we live in a province that has been very theatre crazy, you know, for as long as I have been an adult, that I've, you know, come to Johannesburg to see dance, modern art dance, you know, for Windy Brows and the, you know, market theatres, and in the State Theatre in Pretoria, where there's so much great work happening. And we just have to be a little bit more braver with ourselves as well, to say, Melissa, do you want to do something with me? But then for that to happen, we would need some money, because to research, Melissa was talking about research earlier on, to research, for me to be able to get someone to say, I want you to compose an opera for me, they would need to research, we need to find a playwright to write the script. And they need to be paid before they can even come together to make it happen. And it's those kind of initial funding that becomes an obstacle for most of the companies.
Zandile, just bringing on the same topic around Gauteng as a hub, you know, the fact that, I mean, we have recognized to some extent that everybody likes to come to Joburg to ply the trade, particularly in the arts sector. As a department, do you find that your department has more pressure than, for example, the Mpumalanga Department of Arts?
Well, of course, and I think that's why the national government has taken a decision that some of the piloting projects will have to happen in Gauteng. Just to give you an example, recently we are piloting the carnival movement because the carnival has been growing in Gauteng as a province. But equally, the provinces like the Western Cape, KZN, who have been very active in that space, they've learned a lot from us. So National basically is beginning to say that Gauteng, in many of the issues, in order for us to pilot this concept of the Mzansi's golden economy, Gauteng will have to take a lead in certain areas of work. The music is the same. I'm sure you know that every artist would like to come to Gauteng. So really we've seen that we were under pressure as compared to other provinces. Whereas in provinces like KZN, for instance, they've got a particular budget for arts, they've got a budget for sports. In our case, we don't have that kind of luxury.
But let's take the pressure off you for a minute, right? Talk about private investment, okay? I know everybody's talking about government, but South Africa has perfected the art of the PPP, the public-private partnership. And how's that sector going, and what's happening in that area? Well,
it's been very slow, because, you know, what that requires is it's an interaction between government and the private sector. But in particular, we would need the industry itself, the role players within the industry, not to compete amongst themselves. They will have to find a way to complement. So what you find, for instance, we've got over 7,000 artists. They come individually looking for the same thing. So the issue is, who do you fund at what point, given the limited resources?
Marcus, your Black Tie Ensemble has a major corporate sponsor. How did you guys get that right?
Luck. Pure luck. There was nothing else. You didn't have to go and stand in a queue with a lot of people. It was just somebody recognizing the need, because we were closing down.
Do you think the private sector see the need? I mean, what's the return on investment? I'm going to bring Melissa in as well.
Yes.
But private sector, they'd rather go and sponsor a Kaizer Chiefs game.
It's a tough one, because you remember with us, we will probably have on one sitting about 1,000 people seeing what we do. You know, in one night. And with soccer, you know, there's how many? They fill a stadium. And so for them, it is, I suppose it's more viable to do that.
So for Melissa, it's even more niche, right? Because he has 1,000 eyes. You have like, what, 20, 50?
I think I have a little bit over 20.
I would hope so too.
I say this, Melissa, because as a curator and what you showpiece and showcase, it's really exclusive and really niche and quite expensive too.
Look, I think that, quite honestly, in response to you, is really about perception. The fact of the matter is, there is an artist who is dealing with every issue that he finds within society, who is reflecting on whatever issue that there is. So therefore, that means that there is an audience that's out there. How to get that audience into the space where they can actually understand and find connection with what they see in front of them is the challenge.
You know, I was also going to say, the biggest challenge we have is not that people don't want to come and see what we do. It's that we can't afford marketing to get them to come and see what we do. And marketing actually constitutes the biggest chunk of budgeting, because you have to buy everything you do. You have to pay for it. You have to pay for TV ads, for magazine ads, for radio ads.
Melissa, how do you get people?
What I wanted to actually come back to, sorry to interrupt you, but what I wanted to come back to was the fact that since 1994 there have been two structures funding bodies that have been operating quite independently, but that came out of government. So you have Business Arts South Africa, you have the Arts and Culture Trust that's actually just about to celebrate 25 years in operation, and that. And all of these structures are situated or have positioned themselves in such a way that they intersect or interact with all of these different governing bodies. So you have them at some point having discussions with the National Arts Council, then also then, as is the case with the Arts and Culture Trust, someone like Nedbank then would come in and through all of their different financial programs, find a way to support the arts. So there are things that are there. There are corporates that have collections, you know.
Yes. So
things are happening. Things are happening.
I think just before we end, I'm going to ask you to each give us your point of view with regards arts as a career. Mzwandile, there's people watching this program thinking, goodness, if it's that difficult, I'm not getting into it.
Well, look, for me, I think it's a very important facet of life. I will encourage every young person who's looking for career. It might not be as rosy as we would want to believe, but there are a lot of opportunities in the sector.
Okay.
Myself, having studied around the sector, I don't regret. And I think that there's always opportunities like any other industry.
Okay. As a viable career, Marcus, would you advise your son?
Yes,
to
I'm
take
sitting right here now as a practitioner of the art form that I love and that I have been practicing for 25 years. And yes, there are days where you lie without eating, but at the same time you can sustain yourself. And I think as a career, we are there to supply a need to the country that is well beyond the tangible, and so we have to try and remind ourselves that we are here to serve. And so in that case, we would need people with heart to be part of the industry.
No guts, no glory, Melissa.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to a young up-and-coming person thinking, wow, maybe I can become an artist as a career choice?
Look, I think it's not an easy road to take on, and it is one that you have to approach with a bit of bravado and gusto and real serious commitment. But the rewards might not necessarily, and in the beginning, the rewards might not necessarily be financial.
Why do you do what you do, Melissa?
Because I don't know any other way. That is the honest answer. I do not know any other way. I have tried other things. I have been within a corporate environment, but I keep on coming back to my first love.
And on that lovely note, we end it right there. Thank you so much to my guests. You guys were awesome, and thank you very much for joining us this evening.